Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something really special. We're diving into a full astrological forecast.
Yeah, specifically for Gemini rising individuals. It covers Lilith moving through Scorpio in their 6th house.
And that transit runs from March 29th all the way through to December 20th, 2025. So quite a long period.
It is. And, this isn't just any forecast. We've mentioned Lorenzo before, the astrologer.
Right. And the really unique thing here is, well, we know him personally.
Exactly. So we have his complete forecast, his insights, and we're going to share them with you verbatim, word for word.
Because honestly, his understanding is just, well, we believe in it completely. His insights are phenomenal.
They really are. So if you're listening and you know your chart, you know how important the rising sign is, right? It's not just about your sun sign.
Definitely not. Your ascendant, your rising sign, that's the filter. It's how these bigger cosmic energies actually show up in your life.
So yeah, if you're a Gemini rising, this one is absolutely for you.
Okay, so before we jump into Lorenzo's day by day, maybe we should talk a bit about Lilith. What is Lilith in astrology?
Good idea. Well, she's often called the cosmic outcast or the banished feminine. Think of her as embodying that first no, that primal refusal to submit.
So it's not a planet, right?
No, not a physical body. She's a mathematical point related to the moon's orbit. But in a chart, she shows where you hold this raw, maybe untamed power. Could be creative, sexual, intuitive.
And maybe where you've learned to kind of push it down to deny that fire.
Precisely. That's the core of it. And where she is right now, well, she's shifting.
Okay, so she's leaving Libra, which was in the 5th house for Gemini risings.
Right. The 5th is all about art, pleasure, sex, romance, joy. That kind of Libran focus on connection and beauty.
And now she's moving into Scorpio in the 6th house.
Yes. And the 6th house is very different. It's your daily work, your health, your routines, the systems you navigate, even servitude or submission.
So a big shift in energy then, from pleasure to...
What did Lorenzo call it? He calls it possession. It's this move from Libran pleasure to Scorpionic intensity.
Wow, okay.
And for Gemini rising, Lorenzo's insight, and again, we're delivering this directly from him, is that you become the haunted machine.
The haunted machine.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
It means this isn't just about being a bit fed up with your job or, trying a new diet. It's deeper. It's like you reach a point where you fundamentally cannot tolerate meaningless work anymore.
Or fake wellness trends, things that don't actually nourish you.
Exactly. Or service that just drains your soul. Your body itself and your job, they become battlegrounds. And spells, he says.
Okay, spells. That's intriguing. So let's get into the timeline. Lorenzo calls this the Diary of the Possessed System.
Yeah, it's quite a title. So first key date he flags is around June 13th. Lilith makes a trine to Mercury in Cancer.
Okay, a trine's usually smooth flowing energy, right? And Mercury in Cancer for Gemini rising, that's the 2nd house.
That's right. Your house of self-worth, money, resources. Lorenzo suggests that a conversation maybe about your value, your health, your income could spark a major realization.
Like suddenly seeing you're underpaid or undervalued.
Or that you've been silencing yourself, not asking for what you're worth. The phrase he uses is naming your value. That's the key takeaway there.
Got it. Then just 2 days later, June 15th, an opposition to Venus in Taurus.
Opposition means tension, a push-pull. And Venus in Taurus for Gemini rising is way back in the 12th house.
The hidden house. Subconscious, dreams, self-undoing.
Exactly. Lorenzo says this is where you might see the hidden cost of self-neglect. Like how sacrificing yourself for others has actually really damaged you.
So confronting the inner saboteur.
Potentially, yeah. He mentions it could come through dreams, maybe getting sick, or even through sexual fantasies revealing something hidden.
Okay, moving into July. July 8th and 25th, squares to Mercury in Leo. Squares mean friction.
Yeah, challenges. Something needs to shift. And Mercury in Leo is in the 3rd house for Gemini rising communication, daily environment, information overload.
So Lorenzo's term gaslit by systems makes sense here.
Totally. Think overwhelming emails, rigid rules, constant noise, schedules. He says this communication overload can really push you to a breaking point.
Where you just have to shut out the noise?
Yeah.
Speak your truth.
You got it. You need to silence the inauthentic stuff and only say what feels real.
But there's a bit of a breather around July 10th. A trine to the sun in Cancer.
Yeah, back to that 2nd house of resources and worth. Lorenzo sees this as a possible breakthrough moment. Healing through nourishment.
Nourishment like food or money.
Or all of the above, potentially.
Yeah.
Money, food, touch, even just deep rest. He calls it the first real step towards radical self-loyalty.
Radical self-loyalty, I like that. Okay, then August 7th, a square to the sun in Leo. Back to the third house.
Yeah. And this, Lorenzo points out, is when you might really feel the toxicity of overthinking, the strain on your nervous system.
Realizing how much damage that constant mental churn is doing.
Exactly. It's a sign to change your self-talk, how you plan, what information you consume, a real need for mental hygiene.
Then August 9th, a square to the full moon in Aquarius. That's the 9th house for Gemini Rising. Beliefs, higher mind.
Correct. And Lorenzo anticipates what he calls an ideological meltdown.
Whoa. Like realizing your job or your faith or even just your daily habits don't align with your core beliefs anymore.
Precisely. A time to really discard dogma that isn't yours.
Okay. But mid-August offers some support. August 13th, a trine to Venus in Cancer.
Back to the second house again. Lorenzo talks about a gift, maybe literal, maybe energetic, something that confirms you made the right choice, prioritizing your soul, your health, over just status or routine.
That sounds validating.
Oh.
But the friction returns later in August, the 26th, another square to Mercury in Leo.
Yeah, third house again. Lorenzo sees this as the point where you just stop. You stop trying to explain yourself to people who aren't really listening.
Reclaiming mental silence, choosing your words more carefully.
Exactly that. You just pull back your energy from pointless arguments or explanations.
Now, there's a longer period, August 12th to 31st, a trine to Jupiter in Cancer, also second house.
Yes. Jupiter means expansion, luck. Lorenzo connects this to financial healing intersecting with spiritual labor, as he puts it.
Spiritual labor, what does that mean?
It's like you might attract work or income that genuinely values who you are, your essence, not just your output. It feels like a reward, maybe, for choosing authenticity over just obeying.
A divine reward, he calls it. Okay, into September.
Yeah.
September 7th, a trine to a lunar eclipse in Pisces. That's the 10th house career, public image.
Big one. Eclipses signal major shifts, endings, beginnings. Lorenzo calls this a public karma climax.
Sounds traumatic, like losing a job. Yeah. Or a role changing.
Could be. End of a job, collapse of a role, death of a title. But crucially, he says it leads to the birth of a bigger purpose, your true vocation starting to emerge.
Okay, so an ending that makes space. Then September 9th, a square to Venus in Leo, third house.
Right. Lorenzo says this really highlights your self-talk, exposes how it might be manipulative, maybe stuff you inherited, or just plain outdated patterns.
So needing to consciously rewrite that inner script.
Absolutely, to avoid getting stuck. And then there's this really potent window, September 5th to 13th. Lilith trines the north node in Pisces and sextiles the south node in Virgo.
Nodes are about destiny, path, right?
Yeah.
Pisces 10th house, Virgo 4th.
Exactly. Lorenzo's insight here is powerful. Your destiny is coded into your service. You realize your true mission was kind of hidden in your daily grind all along.
Wow. So you burn away what wasn't right and step into a new work-life covenant.
That's the idea, a profound realignment.
Okay, October. Around the 24th, Lilith conjuncts Mercury in Scorpio, in the 6th house itself.
Conjunction means a merging, an intensification. Lorenzo says your body starts talking. With precision.
Like every little ache or pain means something specific.
Or fatigue or a craving. He says messages might come through illness, routine disruptions, even tech failures. Pay attention to the signals.
Then, October 26th, conjunct Mars in Scorpio. Still 6th house. Mars is action, drive.
And desire. Lorenzo describes work feeling intense, like war or sex or both. Primal energy.
So a time to attack old patterns, maybe even workplace stuff.
Could be. Attacking old work health patterns, maybe feeling sexual tension at work, or just rebelling hard against the structures there.
Then November 19th, this sounds huge. New moon conjunct sun conjunct Lilith, all in the 6th.
Lorenzo calls this the ritual rebirth. Caps lock. This is the moment, he says, to vow, I will never betray my body, my magic, or my work again.
It sounds like a death of the old self.
Then the emergence of something new. Sacred, disciplined, unstoppable, he says.
Wow, okay. But then, November 22nd, conjunct Mercury retrograde, still 6th house.
Yeah, retrogrades mean revisiting. So you might revisit an old job situation, an old health issue, an old mindset about service.
Like a final test.
Exactly. Lorenzo frames it precisely like that. Will you slide back or move forward on the new path?
Then November 28th, conjunct Venus in the 6th.
Lorenzo talks about beauty returning to the body, feeling desirable, but from a place of honesty, not perfection. Feeling good in your skin because you're living authentically.
Nice. And December 11th, conjunct Mercury again, but direct this time.
Yes. Final alignment, he says. Work, words, wellness, all clicking together, embodying health, not just performing it.
And finally, as Lilith is wrapping up in Scorpio, December 1st to 20th, trines to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces.
Back to the 10th house of career and purpose. Saturn brings structure, Neptune spirituality. Lorenzo calls it divine reward for embodied devotion.
So not just getting a job, but stepping into your true role.
That's exactly it. The start of something spiritually significant, something lasting.
Okay, that timeline is incredibly detailed, and knowing it comes directly from Lorenzo, someone whose insights we deeply trust, makes it even more potent.
Absolutely. But he doesn't stop there. He then gets into what he calls the nuance no one is telling you, because there's a deeper layer here.
Right. It's not just about getting a new job or starting yoga.
Not at all. Lorenzo's core insight, and again, this is his specific view we're sharing, is that this transit is really about ending an unconscious addiction to servitude.
Addiction to servitude.
Yeah.
Like always needing to be productive, pleasing the boss, serving the system.
Exactly. Worshipping productivity. And he puts it so strongly, doesn't he?
He does. You were not born to function. You were born to possess your power and inject venom into broken structures until they bleed truth.
Powerful stuff. And then you are not a healer. You are an exorcist.
Wow. That shifts the perspective entirely. It's the wow moment he talks about.
Is realizing you've been trying to heal the wrong thing. Obsessively measuring your worth by external stuff, steps counted, symptoms tracked, schedules kept, people served.
Metrics, instead of listening to your soul.
Yeah. And this leads to his blunt statement, you're not sick, you're enslaved.
So the suffering, the symptoms, it's not a personal failing, it's
your soul on strike, basically. Your body resisting until you live authentically. It's not about healing in the conventional sense, Lorenzo argues. It's about liberation.
okay. And the core nuance everyone misses.
Is that this isn't about fixing the machine, your body, your routine. It's about exposing the master.
Asking who's really running the show.
Yeah.
My boss, my trauma, my need to be needed.
Exactly. Who or what is driving your daily life? And Lorenzo's point is, stop using work and health routines to avoid feeling your rage.
So instead of just more yoga or herbal tea.
Try rebellion. That's what he suggests. It's provocative, but it fits the Lilith and Scorpio intensity.
It really does. Okay, so given that intense nuance, what's the practical advice? Lorenzo calls it practical advice that actually nails it.
Yeah, he's very direct. First, redesign rituals as weapons, not routines.
Weapons? How so?
Make your morning coffee an act of defiance, reclaiming your energy. Turn your to-do list into a magical contract that serves your power, not someone else's approval.
So every task has to serve your own power.
That's the goal, not seeking external validation. Second point. Track sexual energy as a signal, not an outlet.
Okay, explain that one.
When you feel turned on or frustrated or even kind of dirty during the daily grind, don't just dismiss it or act on it blindly. Ask, what part of my soul, my life force, is trying to escape this routine right now?
So that energy is a clue about what needs to change.
He believes so. It's a signal from your core self. Third, watch your hands.
Watch my hands, physically.
Yeah. Scorpio rules the limbs, he reminds us. Aches, trembling, tightness in your hands or arms.
Yeah.
It might not just be physical strain. It could be your body rejecting soulless actions.
So listen to the hands, don't just soothe them.
Exactly. He warns that misaligned service will make the hands revolt. Listen to that revolt.
Okay. And finally, he gives a specific ritual, the service severance ritual, for November 19th, that big conjunction date.
Yes. He says, write down every single way you betray yourself to be useful or helpful. Be brutally honest.
Okay. Then we'll...
Burn the list safely in a black bowl. Mix the ashes with salt.
Yeah, and then...
Scatter the ash-salt mix on your doorstep and declare out loud, I serve only what is sacred.
Wow. That's potent.
It really is. And Lorenzo concludes by saying, look, what we often call self-care, sometimes it's just self-punishment in disguise.
Like forcing yourself through routines that don't actually feel good.
Exactly. And Lilith is here to rip off that mask. You don't need more external fixes, he says. You need permission to do less and matter more.
Permission you have to give yourself.
From that shadow part, that Lilith part that knows your true worth.
Okay, well, that is an incredibly powerful deep dive into Lorenzo's forecast. It really feels like this Lilith transit for Gemini Rising is potentially life-changing.
No question. And again, knowing Lorenzo and the depth of his work, we really wanted to bring his specific insights to you unfiltered.
So, for you listening, especially if you're Gemini Rising, we really hope you'll sit with this. Reflect on what parts of Lorenzo's detailed forecast resonated most for you.
Yeah, take some time with it. Let it sink in.
And maybe here's a final thought to chew on, something Lorenzo's work provokes. Take an honest look at your daily routines right now. Could any of them, even subtly, be keeping you stuck in that feeling of servitude? of obligation over authenticity.
And if so, what's one small act of rebellion aligned with your true self that you could embrace? Maybe even today.
Just something to consider. Explore these themes. See how this dive into Lorenzo's specific wisdom might shift things for you, your view on work, health, and where your real power lies.